I really just want to say before I begin with the rules that I want to personally salute all of you who are candidates, elected officials, former elected officials. They all know what it takes to do what these four people are offering to do, and it's a really arduous task. So personal salute for me to all of you. We're going to try to ask you as many questions as possible. We're going to start by giving you 1 minute each to give an opening remark. Tell us a little bit about who you are. If you go over a minute, whoever asks the question, the opposite person will be timing it, and we'll say time. If you're in the middle of a sentence, please finish your sentence, and your time is up. We're going to do that so we can ask as many questions as possible. We will ask alternately, and when we're done, we are going to do a little Q&A in the audience, and Ken and I both have walk-around mics, so we'll go out and try and get as many questions asked as possible. Okay? I think we're ready, Ken.
You have 1 minute, Ken.
So first, self-introductions.
Yes. Self-introduction.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you for having us here today. My name is Kathy Foster, and I'm a 35-year resident of District 6. I was the first publicly elected official in Wellington to the Acme Improvement District in 1989. I served for 11 years between the Acme Improvement District and our first village council. I helped to write the charter for the village and do the financial analysis for the validity of a municipality in the Wellington area. We became a city in December of '95, and I was selected as the first mayor in the spring of '96. I served till 2000. I have experience as a small business owner for 32 years in the Western communities. Kay Foster Design. I was a founding member of the Palms West Chamber of Commerce. I served 22 of the last 30 years as a board member for the Chamber, and I'm a member of the Wellington Chamber of Commerce. I ran 2 major nonprofits in Palm Beach County, the Adam Walsh Children's Fund and Junior Achievement, and I have a very broad base of experience. Thank you.
I brought a prop. You know, it's not easy to make the decision to run for public office. I mean, for one, if you're a person who gets a little nervous standing in front of a big crowd, it takes a lot of courage. But I decided to run, and I can thank some of my coworkers who picked one of these up that was pulled out of the ground in Belle Glade. And it's a pretty easy reason why I decided to get into this race. You know, we've had a county commission for the last few years that I think sometimes has forgotten its priorities. And while it's done a lot of good things, especially in terms of ethics reform and that sort of thing, it's time to put the mistakes of our past behind us, let the systems that have been put in place do their job, and focus on what's really important. And I ask all of you right now to look at that glass of water, that iced tea in front of you that was made from water, and ask yourself, would you drink that if it came out of this pipe? So that's why I'm running for office. I think economic development, we need to focus on priorities.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Michelle Santamaria, and I'm a local resident in Palm Beach County since I was 9 months old, growing up in Royal Palm Beach, Florida. I'll start with the first and the obvious thing that's on a lot of people's minds. Yes, my father is Jess Santamaria, who has served this community for the last going on 8 years. I plan on continuing the good work my father has done and my experience as a criminal prosecutor right here in Palm Beach County. After prosecuting here in Palm Beach County, I started my own business, like many of you, training FBI agents, other law enforcement personnel, as well as DNA scientists across the country. It's given me the insight with working with so many officers here in this county, along with our Sheriff's Office and the State Attorney's Office. I plan on building the good work that my father has done for honesty in government, ending corruption in Palm Beach County, and of course, as a criminal prosecutor, supporting the Inspector General. Thank you.
My name is Andy Schaller. I am a 27-year Palm Beach County resident for the last 24 years in District 6. Prior to my existing business style, I was a stockbroker, a financial consultant working for an investment banking firm. 20 years ago, I started a company called Palm Beach Financial Exchange. I handled about 550 businesses across the U.S. and Puerto Rico, reoccurring transactions. I handled somewhere around $1 billion of other people's money in this business. I've designed all the software that has been used in my business and that has been able to operate many, many businesses, over 550 across the U.S. I haven't raised my rates in 20 years, and I haven't advertised in the last 17 years because of my reputation amongst my industry. Also, the state of Tennessee auditors were given my financials and my model as to how to train their auditors as to what a good electronic banking company would look like. I'm very proud of that.
Time. Okay, thank you. So the first question will be directed first to Ms. Foster, and then each answer in a row. What qualifications did you bring to the job that differentiates you from the other candidates?
Well, I'm the only one of the 4 candidates who has elected experience, hands-on, in office, making the tough decisions. We helped to write a comp plan to design and build the city of Wellington. We did the financial analysis necessary to make sure we were viable. And the issues facing District 6 require someone who can start from day one dealing with the hard issues of growth management and drainage issues in the Western Cape.
I actually bring over 20 years of experience in the public sector as both an employee and a volunteer at all 3 levels of government, state, local, and federal. I believe that the priorities that face District 6 right now will take somebody that has the leadership skills and the relationships across our state to maximize our local property tax dollar and help bring back some much-needed infrastructure partnerships with our state and our federal government.
I've had the unique opportunity to grow up in a very untraditional household, basically on-the-job training since I was a toddler. My father, even prior to becoming our county commissioner locally, has always been fighting corruption against injustices. There are several examples I can think of growing up, listening to our regular conversations, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner, about the topics that were affecting the community, and my father personally combating corruption. In addition to that, as a criminal prosecutor right here in Palm Beach County, as well as training many, many local law enforcement officers, I've had the opportunity to hear what are the issues that our officers are facing, our firefighters are facing, what prosecutors are dealing with, what the public, the victims of crime, are dealing with. Utilizing my experience through my father, my education, my training, also working with other businesses, I plan to go beyond the work that my father has done and continue the good work in Palm Beach County.
In addition to my resume that I just mentioned, I'm probably the only person up here who has the county experience with the county that I do have. In the last 6 years, I pretty much haven't missed a single county commission meeting, planning and zoning, the Indian Trail Improvement District, any of the meetings that went on with the Army Corps of Engineers. And I think it's safe for me to say, as far as knowing how to apply my private sector experience and knowledge to the public sector, I've probably spent more of my own free time in the county commission in one given month in the last 6 years than all my competitors together in any one given month. I know the process inside and out. I've been through the Inspector General Ethics Commission, State Ethics Commission. I don't think anybody will bring a first-hand working knowledge of this county as strongly as I can.
Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. Question number 2, we'll start with Ms. McKinley. Should Palm Beach County dissolve to Tri-Cities and leave them as part of unincorporated Palm Beach County?
We've got 3 cities out there that have been around a lot longer than I have. Pahokee was incorporated in 1922. I think Belgrade came into incorporation in 1928. And I'm going to forget South Bay at the moment. I would not advocate at this time to dissolve the 3 cities. I think that they have some new, young, bright, fresh leadership out there that are willing to work together as a tri-city area instead of stepping on each other's toes. I think we ought to give them the opportunity to prove themselves. I also think that they need a county commissioner that's willing to sit down and sort of serve as a mediator between the three of them to help them get things done. So no, at this time, I would not advocate for dissolving the cities.
This topic deserves a lot of careful consideration and input from the entire community. The leaders out in those areas, as well as the citizens themselves. Two pieces of advice that I got from my father as far as the county commission is concerned. Number one, he said to me, it's simple, Michelle, listen to the people. And number two, he said, follow what the people want to do. So if we do that with every single issue, I think we're going to make this county a really wonderful place to live.
Well, I'm going to listen to the question. I believe the question was, should the county dissolve the three cities? The county doesn't have that authority. The three cities have been incorporated by the state of Florida. The state of Florida can do it for Tallahassee. The county has no jurisdiction over the cities. So to answer the question very plainly, no, they shouldn't, because they don't have the authority to do so.
I would not support dissolving the three cities in the Glades area. I think they have a very rich history. I think with the situation in Palm Beach County, District 6 is the only available land of any size for future development. And I think that the opportunity to look at the Glades with fresh eyes for business opportunities as we move forward could bring back some vitality and some renewed interest in the Glades area. Thank you.
Okay, we'll first go to Ms. Santa Maria. This is sort of a follow-up question after your general views about dissolving the Tri-Cities. What is your vision for the Tri-City Glades area to be as specific as you can be?
I've started looking at this area even more specifically most recently. As a criminal prosecutor, there's no doubt the area of the Glades needs a lot of help. I think it's going to take a collaborative effort of both, one, the media and the impact it has. If you look at the area out there, we need to start changing the culture of the people who are growing up. As a criminal prosecutor, we fight a lot of crime out there, and it's an uphill battle every single day. But it starts with the youth. We need to educate them as to that there is better hope. We need to provide better examples. In addition to providing hope, how can we do that? We've also got to provide jobs out there. There's areas of land and opportunity for us to stimulate that economy. But first, you have to change the culture of the people. And that's going to go through education specifically. And I think it's a collaborative effort with the media as well as local citizens. And provide them examples of, I just had this discussion with a reporter outside, provide them with examples of other successful people in that community. Right now you've got athletes who are successful out there and pastors who are successful. What if you're not going towards being a pastor, or you're not athletically inclined? You've got to have other options. Thank you.
This topic came up at a recent GTAC meeting, and one of the conversations was again about the youth, and that's where you have to start. That so many of the different youth aren't exposed to different types of projects or different types of jobs to know what's out there. There isn't really a great mentoring program, and it's kind of tough to have an internship program. I'm a very strong advocate for trying to get the University of Florida to come down. While I'm not a Gator, I do understand that people in Wellington, the equestrian capital of the world, are bringing a number of their horses up to the Gainesville area to have work and whatever done on the animals, as well as many of the farmers in the Glades are very proud of the fact that they come to the University of Florida. Well, rather than taking a weak horse and bouncing them on a trailer up to Gainesville, why don't we, along with the other state colleges, try to get a division, an agricultural / equestrian agricultural division of the college located down here, along with the Economic Development Center that's happening. It's been planned and proposed for right in front of the Palm Beach aggregates. I believe that we need to go back to the roots of what made the Glades strong.
I don't think there's one silver bullet that's going to change the life in the Glades. I think it's a multi-pronged approach based on education as well as opportunity. There are some interesting proposals coming before the County Commission at the present time with a call center, a large truck stop, the proposed intermodal logistics center. And I think it will take a combined effort from the BDB as well as the County Commissioners focusing on opportunities that the workforce that exists in the Glades that suffers from such high unemployment could be readily trained and employed in opportunities. I think whatever we can do to change the dynamics in a small way will have a repercussion effect for future opportunities for other developments in the Glades. But we have to start somewhere. The reopening of West Tech in their first graduating class last night was a great indication of the wishes of the people and their desire to improve their lifestyle.
We need to fix this in the Glades. And if we can fix this and we can fix the roads in the Glades, then, you know, Florida Crystals, who's trying to develop the Inland Logistics Center, would actually have the infrastructure in place to improve the economic development out of that community. That's our first thing that we have to do. That's my first vision, is to fix the infrastructure so we have an environment where businesses will want to come and open up. The second thing we need to do is we need to focus on workforce development. You know, Ms. Foster did mention the West Tech Academy out there, which we worked with Senator Abruzzo this year to successfully bring back almost $500,000 from Tallahassee to be able to open that up to the high school kids. Third thing, you know, I did a ride-along recently with the sheriff's office out there on Friday night till about 4 o'clock in the morning. And I learned that, you know, we're putting a lot of focus on prevention efforts for our kids that are in high school and in middle school out there when the gangs are starting to recruit these kids in the 4th and the 5th grade. So if we really want to make an impact on the youth, we need to not only focus on our own high school kids, but also on the younger generation.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Schauer, what is your understanding of and opinion of the South Florida Regional Planning Council's 750 plan?
You want to be brief and succinct? No way, absolutely not. It's probably 450 by now also. I do not believe in a government that is fairly represented, so to speak, representative of the people when you have elected officials who appoint, we'll call them czars or directors or any kind of department heads that don't answer directly to the people. Any plan whatsoever that does not include direct access to decision makers by the elected body electing those decision makers, I am 110% against.
I don't support the 750 plan. It's already become a moot point because several of the counties and their organizations have withdrawn. So I don't think that it has any relevance to the process for people who are out willing to participate.
I would actually echo the sentiments that are expressed here today. Although I do believe in the idea of regional planning, I think it's something that we need to look at, especially, you know, with Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade counties being the population center point of the state of Florida. We do need to start looking at ourselves from a regional perspective, where we can't implement a plan that ties down the hands of our local elected officials.
As a new candidate to this race, this is an issue that I've not yet been involved with, and I can assure you after this meeting today, I will be well versed on this topic, but right now I don't have an opinion on it.
Thank you. And Rebel, I'm just using it as a stopwatch. Okay, now listen carefully. This is a relatively long question that you can answer as succinctly as possible. There's actually 2 parts. In the early 1990s, a previous board granted concurrency exemptions to the acreage and the other subdivided lands of the western communities. Arguably, as a result, there has been little impetus to address road capacity issues in that area. Today, there are capacity issues on most of the county's thoroughfare roads. What would you do to address the existing mobility problems of the western communities? And as part of that answer, do you support the completion of State Road 7 and the Roebuck extension? It is possible.
There is a tremendous need in our county, and in particular in District 6, for an overall comprehensive analysis of the road system in the western communities. As we sit here today, there are almost 20,000 homes in the pipeline that will directly impact the 3 major east-west roads we have, which are Southern Boulevard, Okeechobee, and North Lake. To my knowledge, there has never been an impact study done on the traffic issues for the proposed Minto project under its original 2,900 home density, no less under its request at the present time. We need to take a stand and look at what consequences will affect the existing residents in District 6 from the proposed plans with the assured the property rights that are already guaranteed to the developers. We cannot allow more construction until we understand the implications and ramifications.
Thank you, Ms. McKinley.
That's a hard one in 1 minute or less. Obviously, we do need to look at revisiting that sector plan that was developed in that area of the county. One of the reasons our infrastructure is failing is because our economy failed and we haven't been able to keep up with it, so we're now trying to make up for lost time. I support the idea of trying to bring all the interested landowners together along with county staff and local municipal elected officials and trying to come up with some sort of solution to the traffic problems there. On the State Road 7 issue, we obviously need another north-south route. There's no question there. The city of West Palm Beach, Mayor Moyo is in the room. They would like just one more environmental impact study to make sure that their drinking water supply is going to be kept safe no matter what they end up deciding to do with that road. I think that we should grant them that wish, at least get it done, get it studied, find out what the answer is, but be ready to move forward. Whether the EPA comes back and says it's okay to do that road, then we move forward. If they come back and say it's not okay, we need to be ready to find an alternate route.
I do support looking into further detail. We have to protect the community and the quality of life of the residents who are here. Out in the Minto area, I've driven through there, and if you've ever driven through there, especially recently, you'll notice people with signs protesting against Minto. These are people who have lived in the community a long time, and I sat at a roundtable discussion with them to find out why they're against it. They're not against the fact of bringing in 3,000 homes. What they're against is the traffic by adding 6,000 plus homes. So reasonable growth that is already planned out so that there aren't traffic issues for our community that's already there. In reference to the State Road 7 extension, I do support the idea of it because it's a safety issue. For everyone else in the communities, if there's a hurricane, etc., we need an evacuation route. However, I do support responsible growth. Additional study is a great idea to find out in more detail. If it is impacting the water, then perhaps there's another route, such as building the road over the water that would satisfy most everyone.
It's a two-edged sword because with increased road capacity, you have the ability to have increased home density. So the question really has to be a broader one, is to look at all the different pieces of the puzzle, from Avenir to Highland Dunes to Minto, of course, and anything GL Homes might do. Some of the acreage residents who were proponents of having State Road 7 go through are now rethinking that idea because if there is a greater transportation corridor to move on State Road 7, it could allow for greater density of the different projects. So I think in order to have the best handle on it, we have to find out, not piecemeal, but more of a sector plan style that used to be the rule of thumb way back when this county won awards for it. And you're going to have to look at the totality of the new projects to then determine who actually wants to let more traffic come through their neighborhoods.
Okay. This is another kind of long question. So during the initial script siting effort, in or around the 2003-2004 time period, the county spent approximately $125 million to aggressively expand its utility infrastructure to serve scripts at Mecca. The vast subdivided lands to the north and properties such as Pratt and to the North County Airport. Both water and sewer facilities are in the ground today. What, if anything, would you do to realize the county's investment in this infrastructure?
I'm not sure I understand the question, Sharon.
You want me to repeat it? Okay. During the initial script siting effort, the county spent approximately $125 million to aggressively expand its utility infrastructure to serve scripts at Mecca. And the vast subdivided lands to the north and properties such as Pratt Whitney and North County Airport. Both water and sewer facilities are in the ground today. What, if anything, would you do to realize the county's investment in this infrastructure?
You know, one of the problems that they have faced as far as the discharges from Lake Okeechobee and the pollution that they've been dealing with in the Indian River Lagoon has resulted from a large use of septic tanks along some of those waterways. And we have a large number of septic tanks in that area of the county. And if there was any way to offer an incentive to property owners to go off of a septic tank and onto a central sewer line, that might be something that we could consider to maximize the resources that are already in the ground.
The Mecca Farm property is a perfect example of where it takes more planning before we dive into a project. You don't want to get stuck in a bad situation like we have now with Mecca Farms, where the intended use was for scripts in the biotech industry, and it didn't work out, and now we're stuck. So, one, for the future, we're going to have proper planning, but what do we do with this situation now? It's going to take a lot of brainstorming, a lot of ideas from the community. I'm not certain what the specific answer is, but with a collaborative effort and more careful thought, we can prevent this type of thing from happening in the future.
Well, the county's not stuck with Mecca Farms. They sold it to South Florida Water Management at a great loss. So we're not stuck with that. We do have the residual of the piping. That's all freshwater piping. That's not designed to carry wastewater back. Plus any of the water that would be coming out of that area into the pipeline, freshwater pipeline, would be coming out of that area, filtered and brought back in. Every once in a while, the decision doesn't work. And if people out in the acreage do not want or do not require the public utilities, then they shouldn't be forced to. The whole idea of Mecca Farms where it was a bad deal to begin with, and I don't have any desire to chase money down a bad rabbit hole.
I would have to agree with my fellow boardman, Mr. Schaller, that it was a bad idea and it only got worse. The opportunity perhaps is to put some emphasis on the development of the business centers where Pratt Whitney is located, which is underutilized at the present time. And the North County Airport, I believe, will become more important in the coming years because of the pressure for growth and development here in Palm Beach County overall. Thank you.
This next question is sort of the flip side of the question I just answered. It was sent in by one of our members. Given the continued depressed real estate values in Loxahatchee since the cancer cluster scare 2 years ago, what do you propose regarding bringing in water service connections to the affected area, which appears to be west of Seminole, Pratt Whitney, and north of Valencia? I think it's Ms. Santamaria.
Yes, it is me. Yes, and I remember several years ago, as far as the cancer cluster is concerned, there were studies done to determine whether or not there was a correlation between the water supply and people getting cancer. It was determined that there was no specific correlation. And now the problem is, what can we do as far as the water? At this point in time, I still feel that we need to give it more thought, get more feedback from the community to brainstorm together, along with the engineers and other people who have more experience with those specific issues as to what is the best answer for the community.
Water and public utilities are handled under the MSDU program, where traditionally the county is the one who sends out petitions to see if there's an indication of interest from the residents. In the last 6 years that I've sat in all the county commission meetings that I haven't heard anybody stand up screaming for water. It's been quite the opposite. Leave us alone. We don't want the extra expense because the lots are so big, acre and a quarter on average. The cost, there's been a lot of different things in Indian Trail about the locations of properties. If you're within 5 lots of the beginning of a road, you have a different right than everybody else beyond it because you can't be forced. We've gone through what constitutes a majority, 50 plus 1%, so on and so forth. I said listen to the people. If the people in the acreage in a particular area want a certain county product, they ought to have the chance to get it. We shouldn't be going the other way, forcing them to have anything.
I think the issue becomes for the future developments that are planned for west of Seminole, Pratt Whitney, that we address the problem from the beginning when discussing it with the developers, that they be tied into the water system that's being provided in that area through the utilities, so that those areas will be on a guaranteed water system. The well waters of 60,000 homes in the acreage has a certain limitation in the future. We cannot allow another 30,000 to 40,000 homes to go to well without affecting the aquifer. The South Florida Water Management District is well aware of the future need for these wells and water storage, and I think it's important that future developments coming west of Seminole Pratt Whitney be tied into a managed system for water development.
Well, you know, the cancer cluster issue is actually one I'm pretty intimately involved with. When that came to fruition, I was actually working with Senator Nelson and with Michelle, and that issue came to our office. And I think the county responded accordingly in doing all with the Florida Department of Health. And they did the soil, the air, and the water testing, and it came back pretty inconclusive. I feel for the families. As a mother of my own 3 children, I can't imagine the horrific feeling it must be when your child is diagnosed with cancer and you're grasping for answers and trying to justify how they ended up with that, and you want to find blame, to place blame on somebody. But it's an unfortunate situation that region of the county went through. I think they're on the rebound. I think home prices are coming back up. I think with the development that is already online to come in, we will start seeing those home values rise on their own. And I think we just have to wait and see what happens with the development of it.
Okay, next question. What is your plan to bring economic growth to Palm Beach County?
When I ran for office in 2010, I said the same thing I'm saying now. At one time, Palm Beach County was more thriving with bigger industries, bigger names. We had the Motorola, Siemens, the IBM. I think what we need to do is go back to what originally found the county as a financial base. I think we need to go back to the incentives. If we're going to have big business, there's some areas to be able to have that. I also believe we ought to do, as I said before, push heavily for the college educations, because you can't bring a business here if the education doesn't exist. So I say we go back to everything that made us great and repeat it one more time, look for the incentives to bring different businesses from around the states as well as internationally.
I think it's very important that we work closely with the BDB in focusing development for business opportunities in District 6. As I stated earlier, we have the majority of undeveloped land in Palm Beach County in District 6, and we have opportunities in the Glades because the land is less costly. If we are going to continue to allow managed development growth along the Seminole Pratt Whitney corridor, not everyone can drive east on 3 roads to find employment. We need to open work opportunities in the western side of the county that will allow transportation of the existing roads going in the west.
If I answer in a minute or less, do I get to bank my time?
Negative.
Okay, I'll keep this short. We need to invest in our infrastructure and educate and train our workforce, bottom line. We've got to create an environment that actually helps attract the companies to come into Palm Beach County. We haven't been doing that as well as we need to. So, bottom line, fix the infrastructure, educate and train the workforce.
We should support 2 specific industries in Palm Beach County. One, the biotech industry, which provides insight and information to the future and how we can cure certain diseases. I've had an opportunity to visit the Max Planck Institute and see the good work that they're doing there. Second, another phenomenal industry for us to tap into and provide incentives for is the tourism industry in Palm Beach County. I'm somewhat familiar with the tourism industry, working as a manager with my parents' hotel in our hometown of Royal Palm Beach. But that's another great way to provide good incentives and provide more business opportunity in Palm Beach County, tourism and the biotech industry.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, you've been doing a great job keeping your answers to a minute or less. You need to think real hard about this one, make sure you can still do that. Are county taxes too low, too high, or just about right?
Well, I think we have to be very aware that it's not just county taxes. We have other assessments that are on the budget totally, and we're now looking at a county budget of approaching $4 billion. I don't know at some point that you have to stop and say, are there ways to do things a little more cost effectively? I think with the opportunity for a new county administrator coming to town and 13 of the department heads that will be changing, perhaps there's an opportunity in every department for us to take a look to do things a little more cost effectively. We cannot continue to have the budget grow at the rate that it has grown in past years. The 4.78 millage isn't the issue. It's all the other things that get added in that force people out of their homes as they age. They can't afford to stay in Palm Beach County. We have to address that. We have to find a way to keep the cost of the county under control and allow our residents to stay here as long as they would like.
Well, our millage rate proposed for the next coming year is actually 4.97, I believe. I am not a proponent of increasing that whatsoever. I think we ought to make do with what we have. I also think that we ought to remember that what they're talking about in Washington and what they're talking about in Tallahassee has a direct effect on what we can raise down here and fund with our property tax dollars. There's a whole discussion in Washington right now about the Highway Trust Fund and the gas tax and the shortage and the gas tax revenues, and all of that money comes back to help pay for local infrastructure, and we need to be paying attention to that. I do not propose raising local property taxes, but I do propose making sure we're watching what's happening in our other levels of government to see how it impacts us here.
We've got to look out for the citizens of this community. It's a pretty loaded question. Is it too high? Is it too low? Is it just right? And I had this discussion at my roundtable this past weekend. We've got firefighters, and their concerns were, well, we don't have enough deputies in the acreage where they live, their hometown. And they also mentioned the sheriff's budget as well, that it was too high. Well, they realize there's a balancing act to be done. The sheriff's budget is too high to them, but yet they want more deputies out where they live. So it's something that we have to give careful thought and consideration to. There's so many valuable, quality, good organizations that we really need to look specifically at each one. Everybody's got to be willing to do their part. If we won the lottery, that'd be fantastic, but that's not the reality. We have to look after the citizens, but yet we need to provide services to them. What it's going to take is, I don't recommend, people are always concerned about what's coming out of their pocket. We've got to keep an eye on people and their welfare and providing for their families, but at the same time, we do need funds in order to help provide those services.
I learned as a child, it's not how much you make, it's how much you save and how much you spend. For the last 4 years, I've said we as a county need to determine what we feel is a level of service. Anything that is not a basic essential has to be on the table for any type of budget cuts before we talk about raising any more money. I'm not sure how good of an idea it is for a county government to be in competition, direct competition with some of the industries that it's trying to have prosper. Do we really need another golf course? Do we really need to have a hotel? Do we need other things of that nature? So when you decide what you really need, and when the sequester went on in Washington, they closed down all non-essential offices. Wasn't that kind of an oxymoron? What's a non-essential office of government? So we really have to determine what levels of service that we need in Palm Beach County, what we want, then we can determine if we have the taxes to cover that or not. But first you have to determine the level of service.
Okay. Well, you guys are really good. Okay, this one goes to Ms. McKinley, I believe. Do you believe the county should offer economic incentives to sports franchises? And do you believe that we should offer economic incentives to biotech business?
Yes. And, it was an issue that we worked on in Tallahassee this year, was the baseball stadium issue for lack of a full term. Just as a side note, I was a team manager for the baseball team in high school, a back row for the team in college, so I'm a little biased towards the sport of baseball. But I think it helps diversify our economy. It puts heads in beds, as they like to say. Anything that we can do to incentivize business to come down here, I think is a good idea. We have two-team stadium right now up at Roger Dean. If those two teams don't start getting other teams into our local area, we're going to lose them, and then the county is going to be stuck with an empty baseball stadium that we're still going to have to pay for. So I think anything we can do to encourage that competition to stay local is something that we ought to focus on.
I think we need to make sure not to saturate the market as far as if there are other baseball stadiums available. But at the same time, if it only minimally impacts the local citizens, and we have to keep that as our focus, as our goal, the people who have moved to Palm Beach County to get away from the Browards, to get away from the Miamis, if it does help the economy, as well as bring in a positive impact, everybody loves sports, but yet doesn't negatively affect the quality of life of the local citizens, I would support that. The second industry is biotech, another fantastic industry. I definitely would be in agreement with providing incentives for the biotech industry because it not only does it help the community, stimulate the economy, provide jobs, but it's just good work for all of mankind.
I'm going to draw a bigger encompassing circle and not limited to just two industries. I believe in incentives as long as there's a calculated risk guarantee attached to it. I understand guarantee is a negotiable word, but I don't believe we ought to give an incentive to somebody that has no skin in the game to be able to walk away. 10%, 20%, that's not skin in the game. If it doesn't work out, they walk away and the taxpayers hold the bill. So I'd like to see some sort of performance bond or some sort of guarantee or some sort of equity. You borrow a house that's subordinated by something of value. I support the opportunity to bring business here, but not at the cost of the taxpayer if it just doesn't work out by big business. So I support incentives as long as we have a little bit of equity to hold back in case it just doesn't work out.
I would agree with Mr. Schaller. I think it's important that we support economic opportunities for businesses in the community, but the business themselves have to have a vested interest in what we're doing. The biotech and industry, as well as the baseball stadium, in financial studies have shown that the outflow from them with their employees buying homes, bringing peripheral businesses with them that are spin-offs from those industries have made their investment well worth the upfront cost for economic development.
Thank you.
Okay, the questions so far have been about policy. Now we'll have a campaign question. Who has endorsed your campaign in writing, and if you know, why?
I start where we started.
I think it's
No, this is
I just started this about 7 days ago, so I will find out soon who is going to be endorsing me.
I ran in 2010 as the independent. I received 6% of the vote, 3,200, somewhere around there, 3,300 people. I'm starting those with my endorsements. My endorsements are the everyday people. They're the people who I interact with every day. They're the people that are you. They're the people that are me. I'm not big on name dropping, because at the end of the day, what's most important is whether you believe that I will do the best job of representing you in this county. So you're my endorsements.
I have no written endorsements at this time, but I have the support of the people who I see every day in my community and who encourage me to continue to do what I do and speak up for the residents of the Western communities.
I might need more than a minute. I'm very blessed to have received a wide variety of support. Senator Joseph Abruzzo, State Attorney Dave Ehrenberg, Representative Dave Kerner, Mayor Jerry Moyo, the firefighters of Palm Beach County, the Police Benevolent Association, BizPAC, the Economic Council, 4 other mayors in District 6, all 3 mayors in the western communities out in the Tri-Cities area. Mayors on the east side of town in Lake Clark Shores, councilmen in Jupiter, 3 other commissioners from the city of West Palm Beach. I know I'm going to forget somebody, but that gives you a pretty good idea. I've received very wide support from both our working families and from our business community and from our esteemed elected officials who I'm very proud to work with every day, and very, very fortunate, and thank everyone who has supported me.
Okay. I'm going to skip down a couple questions, Kim, so we can ask a few more questions, and then we're going to open it up to the audience. What are your top 3 priorities if elected?
Number 1 is district representation. We haven't had a full-scale effort, in my opinion, of district representation. We haven't had an office open to Glades in the last 5 years, and our county commissioner presently is the first person in 29 years not to be board chair, district representation. Number 2, district accessibility. That you have to be out amongst the people. Without a doubt, there's no way that somebody can communicate whatever their needs, wants, or desires are if you're not available. I've been available for the last 4 years out to everything I can go to, and I'll continue to do that as your county commissioner. Number 3 can be a toss-up. It can be anywhere from water to preservation of life, lifestyle, property rights. It's a big blanket from there. You have to make sure that you preserve other people's property rights as well as those who are coming in and wishing to affect the other rights. It's maintaining quality of life, good quality of life, Palm Beach County style quality of life.
I think the number one priority is that the people who live in District 6 have a voice in what their future will look like. And I think that requires getting everyone to the table to do a master plan for the future development of District 6. And that includes the Glades and the western communities along the 441 corridor. We are very diverse in our makeup, and we have a lot of different issues, but we all need to address the same things. We have overwhelming concerns with roads and the drainage issues in the western communities. We have issues confronting us that are out of our control in some ways, but we need to have the time to sit down and do a plan so that we can be proactive for what we see our future to be. I think the hiring of a new administrator for the district for Palm Beach County is a critical issue, as well as finding the right replacements for the department heads who are leaving with Mr. Weissman. And I think the third issue is the job growth in Palm Beach County.
You know, I'm running in a district right now that has areas that have 40% unemployment rate. They have a workforce that 50% of the eligible workforce right now has a felony record. They have families that are living in structures that were intended for migrant farm workers back in the 1930s, where there are 24-unit apartment buildings with a communal, that's how they like to advertise it, one bathroom for everybody to live in. We have residents in this district that have been ignored for far too long. The priorities in this district need to include infrastructure improvements, economic development, and public safety and prevention programs. We need to help those members in those residents in District 6 that have been forgotten about for the last few years. And remember that when we can help them in the western communities, it benefits the whole county. You have a sheriff right now that is getting 54 cents to every dollar he's spending from the contracts that he has in the Tri-Cities area. If we can improve the economy out there, he wouldn't have to subsidize his services in that area. That needs to be the priority. I am the only one running up here that has 3 children and a true vested interest in what happens in our future up here as far as the candidates are concerned, and I will make every decision I can. Whether it's good enough for my family, it's good enough for the rest of our citizens. Thank you. A little commas in there.
Keeping it simple and straightforward. 1, honesty in government, demanding that. 2, ending the title that we heard from Time Magazine, Corruption County. And 3, supporting the efforts of the Inspector General as started by our State Attorney's Office.
We have time for one more? Okay, on that note, the next question is, how well has the Office of Inspector General performed, and do we need this service? I believe it's Ms. Foster's turn.
I definitely think we need the Office of Inspector General, but I think that we need to take a look and to establish some very strong parameters for what the responsibility and the areas that that office is involved with. In different areas of the state, there are all different lists of what types of issues and circumstances are involved, and I think that it's unfair to have someone put into office without proper guidelines. I think the voters in Palm Beach County spoke very loudly and very clearly. They wanted an Inspector General, but it can't be a witch hunt. It has to be defined and clear so that the office knows and the people involved in elected office know what is subject to the rules of the Inspector General.
Yeah, I would actually have to agree with Ms. Foster on that. 72% of the voters in 2010 approved the Inspector General. It's now part of our charter, so it's here whether we like it or not. I think it's a good thing. I think she's recovered and some good resources back to the county and has pulled out some fraud and has cleaned some things up. We'll continue to do that with the new Inspector General that they just brought on board. But like I said earlier, we've put the mechanisms in place. We need to let those mechanisms work, and we need to remember that the county has other issues that we also need to focus on.
Absolutely, we need to support the Inspector General. As a former criminal prosecutor, it makes complete sense. You want the elected officials to do their job and have honesty in government. How are you going to do that if nobody's watching over them? The Inspector General was developed after there was an inquiry as to what was going on in Palm Beach County. It was developed based on what was already working in Miami and was set up here in Palm Beach County as a watchdog. However, the Inspector General hasn't been properly funded. Over the course of time, what their traditional budget is, Ms. Steckler has only gotten half of what is needed to fund the Inspector General. How are you properly going to investigate the wrongdoings that are going on or prevent them from happening if you're underfunded, undermanned, and understaffed? So we need to follow what's been set out, which is a 0.25% tax added on to any government contracts. If we do that and give them the proper funding, we're not going to have the issues. Why are people dissatisfied with elected officials? Because of the dishonesty and corruption. With the Inspector General, we can prevent that.
I believe it's a great idea in theory, but in reality it just doesn't work. And the reason is we have given, the voters have given the Inspector General all the authority, so to speak, but none of the policing power. About all she can do is call out something that is a policy change or a policy issue. There's no arresting capabilities, there's no penalty phase. With the Ethics Commission, you can be fined $500 or $1,000. There is no penalty phase with the County Inspector General. So if she found some wrongdoing that was considered illegal, sure, she can then pursue it from that part. But when an investigation is done into Wellington and it's found out that the greatest crime that Wellington had committed was you should have a 5-gallon bottle of Deer Park water instead of individual 16-ounce bottles. And that's one of the ways that we can promote better government in Wellington. There's no teeth in the Inspector General.
Great, thank you. At this point,
I think it's almost 1:30. Your questions were great. If you have questions on an individual basis, I think the candidates can stay for a few minutes.
okay.
We have to call it, been requested to end it by some of our members, not to get back and forth.
Okay, well, I think the candidates did a great job, particularly with the 1 minute.
Yes, they did.